Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Portugal. So this is the very first Portuguese craft beer that I'm reviewing for you on the channel, if memory serves me correctly. The only other beer I think I've done from Portugal was actually one of these big produced lagers, so I'm really excited to do this video. So we're going to go to Porto today and we're doing my first ever review from the Colossus craft brewery, also known as Cerveja Colossus in Portuguese. So this beer is called the Wonderlust. This was the first one they ever produced. It's an American IPA and it comes in at 7.4%. Now this was another beer that I picked up from Market Hall Wines in Durham. David that works there, he was doing a deal with a Portuguese wine importer and they were also able to get him some Portuguese craft beers as well, which is great for me. So thank you to Market Hall Wines for being able to provide these beers for me. Do make sure you check them out if you're watching from the Durham area. Of course they've got a great selection of wines and stuff, and they've got a good little selection of craft beers that's always kind of being improved as well. So I'll put their Facebook link in the description below and make sure you check that out. If you are particularly interested in Portuguese craft beer as well, do make sure you go and check out my friend's channel, Craig, over at Kent Beer Reviews. His wife has a Portuguese family, or she is Portuguese but grew up in London, something like that. So he goes over to Madeira quite a lot and he's reviewed a good number of Portuguese craft beers. So do make sure you check out his channel if you are particularly interested in craft beer. Again, I'll put the link to him in the description below to his Facebook page and you can check him out, and I'll put the YouTube channel one in there as well. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do from the Colossus brewery in the future. Very first time I'm trying, not very first time I'm trying one of their beers actually, I tried them at a wine tasting, but very first time I'm reviewing one of their beers. There will be a few more reviews in the future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, prefecture, county, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. I will make one for all the Portuguese beers that I'm hopefully going to review for you, and I'll make sure that gets added to over the next little while. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then about Colossus Craft Brewery. So as I mentioned to you, Colossus Craft Brewery, or Cerveja Colossus, are based in Porto in Portugal, and they were founded back in 2015 by João Oliveira, and I do apologise if any of my pronunciations aren't quite right. So João had actually been a home brewer since 2013, and he started brewing because the selection of microbreweries in Portugal was very, very small at the time, and he basically tried some of the American beers, and he wanted to brew the beers that he actually enjoyed drinking. So he developed his first recipe while he was finishing off his business degree, and he was also working on the phone doing IT support as well. But eventually he quit his job in early 2015, and by June of that year he had the brewery up and running. So he started with 2 recipes, and the positive feedback encouraged him to refine them and put them into the form that they're in today, and he started contract brewing to meet the demand. So the 2 beers that he started off with were this one here, the Wonderlust, and also the Adamanthea as well, if I'm pronouncing it right, which is their smoked wit beer that they do. But at the moment they're working to expand their brewery capacity to 6,000 litres per month, which actually increases their output by 10 times, and they're also starting to export their beers as well. It's only very recently that their beers have actually arrived over in England. But the brewery is named Colossus because João actually likes the Greek mythology, and also because the word is quite easily recognisable and pronounceable in various different languages across the world. So it's named after the Colossus of Rhodes, which was actually one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and it was a beacon for ships coming into the harbour. It was supposed to symbolise trade, progress, civilization and homecoming and things like that. But he's really, really into his Greek mythology, and the other beers, of course, are named after some of the Greek symbols and gods and things like that as well. You will see that in some future videos. As I say, I've got 2 more reviews. I've got their wit beer and I've got their stout to review for you at a future date as well. But this one was the very first beer that they produced, and I thought this would be a good way to kind of kick off my Portuguese craft beer reviews. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about the brewery. I will say thank you to Hal for giving me the information on the brewery. I did write to him and he gave me a load of information, so a big thank you to him for providing all of that. And let's just get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself now. Really looking forward to this one. So yeah, as you can see, nicely presented. All the beers have a really kind of similar style of artwork, I would say. the kind of white labels with the black background. The bottle caps are all a little bit different as well. They all have the first letter of the name on the top as well, which is pretty cool. So this one's best before December 2018. It is pretty fresh. As I said, a 7.4% American style IPA. So without further ado then, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting. Looking forward to this. I did actually try this beer at a Portuguese wine and beer tasting at Market Hall Wines. But I was having wine and things like that, and I do remember, I think this was I'm not sure if this was the first one that I tried, but I do remember quite liking it when I had a go of it. But yeah, so as you would expect from an IPA, this one's poured a really nice, slightly darker orangey amber. I do wonder if that's a slightly longer boil that's given it the darker colour. It could also just be the colour of the malts. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see there is a degree of transparency. There's one or two little bits of particles just floating around in there, but of course that's common for craft beer. There's a solid finger of a frothy, very slightly beige, I would say, yeah, very slightly kind of fawn, beigey coloured head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head there. But overall, it looks pretty nice and it looks exactly as you would expect an IPA to. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. So yeah, with this one, nice juicy fruity notes. The malt base, I would say, is quite prominent in this though. You can smell the sweet caramel, there's a little bit of biscuit in there, a little bit of bready quality as well. You can smell that there's a little touch of booziness to this beer too, which is quite nice. I do always love, it's something with all these big hazy New England style IPAs that are going around, you do miss the kind of classic West Coast style IPAs, which I will say this one is. I know that from having tasted it already. This one is more of a West Coast style double IPA. But I do miss the kind of big sweet caramelly malt bases in these beers. So yeah, when you sugar this beer up, you do start to get a little bit more of the fruity quality out of it. I would say there's a little bit of grapefruit in there, definitely. I'd say it leans towards the orangey side of things. I suspect there's a little bit of Amarillo in this beer. There's maybe a little bit of a kind of mango-y note as well. I do think there's maybe, I would guess that maybe, I think Amarillo is definitely one of the hops in here. Maybe there's a little bit of Citra as well, because you can pick up grapefruit, and I think there's a little bit of a kind of tropical fruit note to this beer as well. So yeah, on the other side of the hops, I would say you're getting a little bit of a kind of floral, aromatic character to this one. There's a little bit of grassiness in there as well, but I would say this beer leans a little bit more towards the kind of spicy, floral, aromatic notes more than anything. So yeah, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. And I'm really enjoying this one. Like I say, I've missed having some of these nice West Coast style IPAs with the caramelly malt base. Just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma. It's always half the experience when it comes to whiskey, sake and craft beers and things like that. This beer does smell pretty nice. Nice big juicy oranges, and of course, if you've watched the channel before, you will know that I love these big orangey IPAs. So without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer. So this one's the Wonderlust, an American IPA at 7.4% from the Colossus craft brewery, Cerveja Colossus, down in Porto in Portugal. Let's get stuck in. Cheers. Slange skull. Yeah, that is a pretty nice beer. There's a little bit of nostalgia coming back to me. Like I say, it's been so long since I've had a good West Coast style double IPA. I love it when you get these caramelly malts in the malt base. But yeah, have a go with this beer if you get the chance. It's pretty bloody nice. So yeah, with this one then, I would say there's a little bit of a bready base to the malt base. You can feel that just blanketing the middle of your tongue there. That goes right across the middle of your palate. On top of that, there's a little bit of sweet caramel. There's some slightly biscuity notes as well. There is a little bit of that sweetness there. You can feel there's a little touch of booziness to this beer, which is quite nice. It does give a little bit of that warmth, which is what you want, but you can feel nice little bit of bready character there, right, and then on top of that, there's a biscuity note as you go further out towards the edge of the tongue, and then right in the centre of the palate, it's quite a sweet caramelly note, and there's a little bit of booziness just mixing in with that kind of caramelly flavour as well. It's nicely balanced, this beer, actually, I think. It's definitely for hopheads this one. I'm not sure what I would guess the IBUs in this one are maybe around 70 or 80, something like that. It does have a good bit of hoppy bitterness to it. Back corners of the palate, there's a little touch of earthiness there, but as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, there's a nice, slightly spicy, floral aromatic note coming out of this beer, and then round the very front curve of the palate, it's just a little bit lighter and grassy, I would say. But yeah, if you just go behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get that little oily bubble, where some of these nice kind of fruity, juicy esters are coming out of the beer. So for me, on the fruity side of things, I think grapefruit is definitely forming the base of this beer. On top of that, there is a little bit of a more tropical fruity note, I would say. I don't know if it's mango. I would say maybe a little bit of mango in there, but there's definitely an orangey characteristic to this beer. I'm really wondering if there's some Amarillo to this one. And I think later on as you move into the flavour, I think there's a wee touch of kind of lychee or something like that. There is a little bit of a lighter kind of tropical fruit coming out of this beer, which is quite nice. I'd be interested to know what hops they actually use in this one, because it's a really interesting combination of fruit. But I think definitely grapefruit is forming the base of the beer. There's a little bit of mango in there, and definitely some oranges, I think, as well. But it's really pretty nice. I mean, it's very straight up, I think, in terms of its recipe. Like, I think it's a very straight up West Coast style double IPA. You know, it's one of these beers that I think is just it's quite simple, but all the flavours go together really quite well. It's another one that kind of strikes me as being like that. It's not overly complex, but it does what it does very, very well. I think that's a good way to kind of summarise it. Would I drink this beer again? Yeah, I definitely would. It is really nice. I'd like to see them try a slightly lighter IPA as well. It would be nice to see them take this, do a West Coast IPA, like a little brother version of this or something, and just take it back a little bit to say like 6% or something like that, and go for the West Coast, because I think they've got a solid West Coast style recipe, if that makes sense. It would be cool just for them to take it back a little bit and make something a little bit more sessionable as well. I would say that about this beer, but as it is pretty nice, I have to say. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say with this one, mid-bodied, carbonation. It does have a little bit of crispness, this beer, which is nice, and it's understandable as well, because Portugal generally is quite a hot country, of course, so you would tend to find that these beers from southern European countries have a little bit more carbonation. Mouthfeel overall, I think, is quite oily. There's a good bit of hoppy bitterness to this beer, like I was saying. I reckon somewhere between 70 and 80 IBUs for this guy. Good bit of fruity juiciness as well, and there's a good balance between the sweetness of the malt base, and there's just a little touch of booziness to the beer as well. It does have a little bit of alcohol warmth to it, which is quite nice. But overall, like I said, it's a really solid double IPA, this one. It is nice to try something that's the West Coast style, as opposed to all the kind of New England style stuff that's going about just now. It is nice just to take a step back and try a beer like that. But I think these guys, if they keep going the way they're going, hopefully they produce a few more beers as well. I think they are gradually just kind of expanding their repertoire, if you like, but I can see a good future for these guys, and it is cool to see things like this coming out of Portugal as well. Portuguese beer, as Craig will tell you as well, was like gold dust for a long time, and if we're starting to get them in the UK, hopefully we start to see them over in Sweden and Copenhagen and stuff like that as well when I head back there soon. But it is cool to see that the Portuguese beers are starting to get out there and make a name for themselves too. So yeah, it's been really cool to review this one for you. It's a really solid West Coast style. I'm not sure if this one's quite a double IPA or exactly where you should put it, but it's a really solid West Coast IPA, this one. They've done a nice job of that. It would be cool to see them make a slightly more sessionable version of this, because it's 7.4%. You know, it is one of the heavier IPAs that you're going to come across, but it's a really nice beer. In terms of flavour, you can't ask for much more. It's quite simply done, but all the flavours kind of blend together really quite well in this one, so I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. So yeah, the Wonderlust from Cerveja Colossus in Porto in Portugal, really, really nice beer, and I'm looking forward to reviewing the other ones from these guys now. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Cerveja Colossus as well. I'm sure I will be reviewing more of them in the future. I was going to say hopefully I'll review more more, but I will be reviewing more of them fairly soon. But do please let me know some other Portuguese beers and breweries that you'd like me to review. Make sure you go and check out Craig at Kent Beer Reviews as well, and check out the Portuguese reviews that he's done. He's done some really nice reviews over there. But thank you once again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Wonderlust American IPA from Cerveja Colossus in Porto in Portugal. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål.